good
Go
to
ahead.
go.
Okay. So I'm doing my speech today on political correctness. I've got 4 different examples and sort of my opinions and my thoughts on each one of them. So the first one, Donald Sterling. Does anybody know who Donald Sterling is? Former owner of the LA Clippers of the NBA. He's a former owner because he said these things in a private conversation with his mistress. So take a second there and read these things and let that stick in your head there for a second. So I think we can sort of agree that this guy is an asshole. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. I'm not here to sort of defend what he's saying there. This guy's a real piece of work. But he said these comments in a private conversation with his mistress. They're not public statements. And he's lost his team over it. He sued the NBA, he's lost his team, his wife's got half of the profits there. I don't know. It's, to me, that's not, if you're gonna take away the rights to own a team because you're an asshole, you probably wouldn't have a professional sports network. I have a feeling that most of the owners are probably a jerk to one extent or another. So I think this is overreaching, even though I'm not defending what he's saying or who he is as a person. I just don't think it's right to be able to take that from him. And he sued the NBA. He hasn't seen any money from the sale. He's currently fighting that in court. Second one, we brought this up in class. These specific examples we brought up in class, and it came up. A lot of people were sort of moaning and groaning, and I think people had, well, what if a police officer, what if it's a man? You can just call him a policeman, right? And to me, I think if we frame this under the context of evolution of language rather than political correctness, fireman, mailman, policeman, this made sense when that was predominantly males in that industry. When it's all men in there, that makes sense as language, but that's not the case anymore. So we just evolved the language. We could say these firemen, that's an archaic term. And that way, if somebody says policeman, it's not, don't get on your like cultural warrior high where it's like, yeah, actually, it's police officer. No, just you know, treat it the same way that somebody says Chesterfield or interwebs or whatever other archaic term they're using, and go forward. Homemade clock. This is another one we came up in class, and do you remember what I talked about here? This is Ahmed Mohammed, the kid who made the clock in school and he got arrested. When this was presented, a lot of people had a lot of questions. A lot of people were bang, bang, bang with statements. And they were like, oh, the kid was, he was a foreign kid. He was a minority kid. Or, hey, where did this take place? Is it in Texas there where they're all racist? And the first thought that came to my head, and the reason I'm bringing this up, first thing that came to my head was, what did the clock look like? It's not necessarily racism if it looks like a bomb. So this is an idea. This is what the clock looked like. Okay. Now, if you had this clock in class with a little timer on the front of it, and you went and looked at that, and the kid brought that in, and you're like, that's probably just the clock. I'm just going to ignore that. That seems actually wrong. It actually seems like, hey, maybe we should be flagging this down. I'm not saying the kid should have been arrested, but I'm saying the kid kind of should have understood that what he was doing looked like a bomb and that he was inciting something. And we're so focused on being politically correct that we don't think critically about this. We're going to say, hey, we're just being racist. We're just, that's a discriminatory thing towards that kid. And when in reality, this could be something that's really insightful. Now, I looked this up too, And if you look in YouTube homemade clock fraud, if you kind of like Google that, there's a lot of videos here. He didn't even invent a clock. He took a regular alarm clock, opened it up, put the circuits in, put this thing on the outside. He didn't make a clock. It wasn't a cool, I mean, Obama was, oh wow, what a really cool clock you've got there. He just took an alarm clock and put the display on the outside and put it all together. So there's got to be a little bit of personal responsibility for that kid. And they're like, hey, I think he knew that he made a bomb, and I think he knew that he was inciting stuff. But because we're all so focused on being politically correct, nobody thought about it critically. So don't let your tendency to think political correctness overshoot critical thought. This is the last one, Washington Redskins. Does anybody know what's happened with Washington Redskins?
They're changing their logo.
Changing their name.
People want the name to change.
People want the name to change, that's right. Because it's a racist term towards First Nations people, or it's a certain faction of them. Oh, sorry, it's an NFL football team.
Okay, thank you.
So much so that the NFL has actually ripped the copyright from them. So if you wanted to, you could start up a business called the Washington Redskins and make it whatever offensive thing you wanted to make it. Or make it selling chocolate or whatever you wanted to do. They don't have any copyright. Put their logo on there, you can do whatever you want. Now, it seems like common sense, right? If it's offensive, that we would sort of support changing that. But people in the States, they don't support it. They don't support it at all. The vast majority will fight the name change. Why? Because it's, I don't know, it's what we're used to, or it's been like that for a long time. One of the rules that I think we should be looking at when we're doing the cultural warrior thing is, like, if I'm telling you, Steve, no, it's not policemen. It shouldn't be designed, like, I'm not going to be sitting there criticizing you because it makes me feel better. It should be focused on what you're doing is offending a certain party. So this is, First Nations people have sued the NFL. It's them that's offended. It's not me. Of course, Adam doesn't care. What does it matter to him, right? Of course, Washington Redskins fans, of course they don't care, but it's an offensive term. If we use an offensive term in any other respect, if we used, if there was a new Baltimore team that used an offensive term for black people, nobody would find that acceptable. So think of it in terms of the offended party, not of making yourself feel better by criticizing. It's an offended party, of course, that's what it is. So, I should have flicked the next thing so you could have actually seen the logo and stuff. I didn't flick it. I have a little summary there, but I guess it doesn't really matter. It's sort of stuff. So that's it.